pleasure. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Well, let's see. I was trying to think about what in God's earth, how I wanted to introduce Eileen Myles to you, and for many of you, she needs no introduction. It was hard for me to imagine saying anything Eileen hadn't heard me say before, because I've had the pleasure and honor of writing about Eileen a lot. So I guess instead of going over old territory about how and why Eileen has been one of the most important writers on the planet, both to me and to so many other people for the past several decades, I think I just want to address this moment, Eileen's moment, the moment of the now. So, as many of you know, Eileen's new and selected poems just came out. There it is. I Must Be Living Twice, along with a new edition of her classic Chelsea Girls, which a lot of us read together last week. And when I read it, I was just saying to Eileen, it was like a miracle rubbed anew, where it was even better than I remembered it, which is really saying a lot, because I remembered it as pretty fucking great and life-changing and life-sustainingly great. So these publication events, along with Eileen's words or Eileen-inspired characters cropping up in pop culture, Lily Tomlin movie Grandma, TV series Transparent, plus her winning the prestigious Clark Art Institute Prize for Excellence in Arts Writing a couple of weeks ago, and more, have all conspired to give Eileen a really big, I think what she's called a kind of retrospective moment, which is keeping her so busy that I'm amazed and happy that she's had the time to come up to CalArts to read and talk with us tonight. I'm exceedingly excited for this moment, but I also just wanted to say something in response to comments like when I read the great profile of Eileen last week in the New Yorker, that it finished by pronouncing, quote, "The time has come to shine a light on the margins." And I just had to say that, Eileen may have been working on the margins for some literary peoples, but for many, many, many of us, she has been at the exact center of the action for a very long time. It kind of all depends on where you think the action is. So personally, I don't see the mainstream as having a light to shine as much as I see it as a group of people with their heads in their asses who occasionally lift them out and notice that the sun has been shining with bright ferocity for all this time. So I'm embarrassed for them when they admit that they hadn't seen it, but I'm glad that we all know. Eileen is, of course, that star, and it's my pleasure to welcome her to CalArts tonight.
Maggie, thank you. That was so great. You guys, thanks for inviting me, and great to be here. And hello. This is sort of like a little deep. It's like a podium without a ledge, kind of. Yeah, exactly. And I feel it already. I'm sort of wary. So I guess I'm gonna read one little. Story chapter from. I know now it's sort of like I feel like Chelsea Girls was a collection of stories because that's what Black Sparrow said. It's stories, right? And I was okay. And the new publisher said it's a novel, right? And I was like, it's a novel. So now I'm like, when I feel like if I say story, I was like, oh no, it's a novel, it's a chapter. So this chapter is called Pomponescent. I guess I was about 18 and I was in a car driving down the Southeast Expressway towards Cape Cod. We had just had a biology exam and I was immensely relieved. The sky was a pale blue like it is in late afternoon. I had a tall can of beer in my hand and it seemed I see me in profile. How strange. I was riding in Louise's car, a black Mustang. She was a short, athletic girl, constantly tanned girl. I had a strange feeling of excitement around Louise, which compelled me to fulfill her idea of me. It didn't seem too bad. She saw me as intelligent, I think, and she laughed at me in a way that implied I was a riot. I didn't know for a fact that she thought I was good-looking, yet here I was in a carload of girls heading down the Cape to a party at Louise's family's house in Pomponescent. We were going for the express purpose of meeting other friends of hers, guys. One she had gone to high school with, and she described them as hunks, or something like that, and it was perfect in her mind that they meet me and Anne, who we also knew from school. And being from Lexington, they already knew Sally and Diane, and we were going to have fun. I felt extremely passive about it, exhausted from the exam and sort of apprehensive at the idea of meeting them. It seemed destined that they wouldn't like me. There seemed to be something missing. I often thought different guys to be quite beautiful, and I would watch the way they walked and moved their hands and leaned and held things and looked around. We got down to Louise's house and we brought our huge amounts of beer in from the car and our small amounts of clothes. We had big bags of Doritos and stuff, bunches of cigarettes. We threw ourselves down on the soft family beach furniture and proceeded to talk, just us girls in the fading light. I wasn't intending to smoke, was off them for several months now, and had been going through the hard part, which was gaining weight, and now that I had done little of that, everything tasted good and I could breathe pretty well, and so it was a big mistake to begin now. I watched the smoke curl up in the air through the windows of the beach house, and I grew immensely intelligent and witty, as I tended to in a group of girls, not being afraid after a couple of drinks that anyone would be embarrassed by my intensity. They were intense too. It was a big secret to everyone we hid it well and let it out now and then when we were drunk, that we were smart and cared and thought about many things. Diane had long dark hair, and she also held court, I noticed, and she held her cigarette like an older woman when she spoke, and I figured she was probably turning into her mother or someone else. "They're here!" shrieked Louise. "Dave!" she yelled, strutting out. And it was apparent Louise was quite drunk. Everyone was. I remember being quiet for a couple of minutes, like someone told me to shut up. No, let me be frank, I barely remember a thing. I was walking on the beach with Kit. Kit Anderson was his name, and he had on a red sweater, and we had been talking maybe a little bit inside, and I had no feeling he liked me at all. In fact, he was holding me up, and I felt burdensome, and he felt like the boys from Arlington, only I didn't know this guy at all, and he was a big blonde. I remember we were trying to make out, but that was boring and pointless because I was so drunk, plus we didn't care about each other at all. He was probably drunk too, but I don't know. I went into the bedroom with Kit, and then it began. I don't know. Just a rhythm of many guys. I seem to remember all of them in there at once, but that might have been a blur. And then precisely David sitting down, a therapist's son, Dave Margolis, something like that, and he was dark-haired, and he was sitting on the other bed saying, "You are disgusting. You are a slut." It was like being drugged in the dentist's office. I felt fat. I remember loathing my body. It went on and on, people on top of me, feeling scared, feeling turned on. Am I dreaming? Rape was the first sex I ever heard of. Some girl tied to a telephone pole down by Spy Pond. It always seemed to happen in nature. Choking. I had a lot of cock shoved in my mouth. Hoots. Getting fucked with cold hot dogs. There was pancake batter all over the place. I remember my wool-plaid pants being off, being white. It was cold. Dave was talking to me like it was my fault. I was trying to talk, but my tongue was so thick. That underwater feel. "You're an asshole." "I'm not." The door was slightly open into the kitchen and light was flooding in through a crack. Louise's brother was on top of me and I could see a little smile on his face and he was sucking my tit. He's happy. How weird. He was hurting me and it felt pretty good. He had his glasses off. I pretended I was asleep. In the morning, girls were sleeping in clumps all over the house. I had my own bedroom, it seemed. I was alone. So sick. I tried to make some coffee, gave up and walked down to the beach. There was these polyps, pink and translucently fleshy, scattered all over the little tan beach. I sat on the side of an old rowboat. I felt like the inside of my head had been scooped out. I was painfully numb. I had been raped, right? Even if I don't know exactly what happened, that's how I feel. A bunch of good-looking suburban guys, 18 or 19, same as me, who all owned cars, trashed me for two reasons. I was drunk, they didn't know me. I wrote my name on the sand with my toe. Eileen Myles. Yes, that's who I am. I rubbed it out with my foot. "How are you feeling, Lena?" I was standing in the kitchen trying to make some coffee. Louise explained that she thought I liked it. That's why she didn't interfere. Sally had passed out. "Those guys are assholes, Lena." Anne just said she was scared. She didn't know them either. Diane went out for pizza with, I can't remember his name. I wasn't ever going to drink again, but I felt safe at the card party that night. The beers helped me relax. People were kind of taking care of me then. But Eddie, Louise's brother, killed me. So righteous about what a bunch of little pricks they were. I went out with him a few times after that. We saw Vanilla Fudge. I wanted to see if his story would ever crack. Louise must have known he fucked me too. Once she pulled into a gas station in Lexington where Dave worked. She didn't warn me. "Louise!" "Hi, Dave." "Hey, Louise." "He can't see you." I'm sure he doesn't even remember. "Hey, Dave." She just got out of the car. strange story to get replied for. It's like on Facebook. The other thing I said though too was when I wrote this right at the end before the book went to press, in 1994, and there was this thing about I felt like in some way what I was doing with this book was making the female experience as I understood it, and I had this story and I'd wanted to write it for a long time and I didn't know when and how, and then finally when I was putting the book together at the last minute I just thought this book can't exist without this story in it, and so it just the book kind of sucked the story out of me in a way. And it's so weird, it's as the book gets republished, I think this will at some point get close to these actual people. And it's kind of amazing. So this poem is called, the sad part is, I love the guy in the laundromat, the way he hands things to me, smiling, a nice pink slip with a black number on it. I've just handed all my clothes over to him. They're quickly weighed, priced. He writes the price down on the slip, and it's okay. He smiles, I smile, I walk out. It's funny how I sit in the inner sanctum of my apartment with the stove, the refrigerator, overhead light. Down there in the dark by the window, I've got a desk, but I like it over here. It seems warmer, though the radiator's down there. I live in a small place, and when I'm alone, I make it smaller. I prefer it this way. Keep the action in a small, bright place. Wonder where I'm going, but tonight I've got this light. Triangles of power. I have a plan, which is to keep this lid off. Got a slice burned the roof of my mouth. Knew I would, it was delicious. I fast walked someplace, my feet were cold, but the slice built a fire in my stomach. I said thank you to the natural elements, cold night, digestion. What is it about the January feeling past everything else, low glowing hunger that propels me around? I may be wrong, predictable to picture you around here or us over there. It's a miracle. Rolling golden in the coldest month, looking forward and back from so much else. There wasn't even a noun around. I walked in from the snow nearing Christmas and you touched my black coat with your handsome hand, and believe me, I came lit and am changed. This one's called The Real Drive. My great sacrifice exists between the inarticulate fingers of a tree sparkling up through a brooding blue as I wheel it to the gym, and a cab, though the air is wet tonight, and I want to take you in my arms and go to Europe. Oh, baby, we must. Kissing all the droplets off your back in the shower now, and the radiator sizzling against the loss and the apparent despair and decay in the walls of the way I live. Anyone can see it now, even Joan. I can't change a thing, but it's warm, terrifically warm against the oncoming winter of 1986 when I was born with you, who are always moving your teepee away, but I usually follow. I don't want to browbeat you, oh black and white, black and white. The cops in the city whooping down first like big dogs. I have to stay true on the street I was born on. This is an oath. Don't lie. I am slipping. I am lying. My great sacrifice exists because everyone sees it, and I need that a lot. I am such a big lesbian, I have to jump off a cliff. I am such a handsome poet, I have to become an advocate of verse and stop lying and get rich. Every time I dress better pretty soon, I'm speechless or broke soon, I hope. Oh, release me from the hostage of, working for you, baby, or what? In the cab driving through a slick woman's arms, I could have cried because I was not slipping and sliding alone. It was you in a beautiful dress, black and white, black and white. I have felt things here which I assumed belonged to 14 when I was perfect. Oh, you a man or something wonderful? The great sacrifice is, she slides an icicle down my blouse, she is a jerk. The wonder of the universe is, she did not get spoiled. She can hold me, I can hold her also. Every bit of ice breaks up, it flows down the river streaming. Tiniest glistening droplets on the branches of the tree this winter, and the dampness on your hair in the light. When I go this way and you got your coat black wrapped around you now as you walk home with the streetlights on your back, because you are the North. It's called Bleeding Hearts. You know what I'm jealous of? Last night, It held us both in its big black arms, and today I hold between my legs a shivering pussy, bleeding and shaking, wet with memory, grief and relief. I don't know why the universe chose me to be female. So much beauty and pain, so much going on inside, all this change everywhere, coins falling all over the bed, and death is a dream. Deep in the night with thousands of lovers, the sucking, snapping, reeling flesh, deep in the cavity of endless night across mounds of bodies, I peer over. Is it love or war, the hollow, creeping cheek where I was born? Now what? You know, there's like a poet thing. The first time I ever saw a poet read, she had all these like papers hanging out of her book, and I thought that is so gross. Keeps these little index cards like a band, you know, a playlist. Superior artist. So this is called Hot Night. I don't even want water. I'm just. Hot night, wet night, you've seen me before, when the streets are drenched and shimmering with themselves, the mangy souls that wander and fascinate its puddles, piles of trash. Impersonal street is a lover to me, growling thunder, lightning to flash and light up 7th as a little mangy boy weaves towards me and laughing couples kiss the puddles with intended sex in bright shirts. It could be another city, but it's this city where I stop being alone and alive, bringing my candles in while I go walking in the rain. I think I need a Bowie knife, a pistol, a squealing horn. You've seen me before, hardly ever as charged up as now, at the end of my rope by a window in the rain. July is full of pleasants, things that can be pushed to fill to the end of summer where no one's ever surprised to have made it to September where something lives. The culture made inside. In July, I'm filled with the death of the streets. You've seen me before. You're a witness to the death of my innocence, which came teetering here without appetite. If anything lives, I've seen it in the streets, and why am I falling in love now with the old and the scabrous? Why am I giving my money away? Someday I photograph mounds of trash, finally turn the focus on me, a portrait I could accept. I feel erotic, oddly magnetic to the death of things, emptily attracted to the available empty space, a step, or I will not tell you where I've been, but I do and do not belong. When dawn begins, I'm blue and lonesome. Give me twilight, then the night. Let me be lost in a lonesome space, the human sea of no one. Drivel passes from the mouths of babes, smart shirts bopping along, art faces, California faces, the proud march of culture in New York City. Man, a wheat buzz. The screaming pork chops on the 4th of July, the disintegration of the Hells Angels can be loved. Now there are 10. Tempe inclusive now. I smell death everywhere. I hardly think it's in me, though it always has been my baby blossom. I hope I make it through the night unplanned. Nothing dazzles me. Who's driving? God? I don't believe in God. New notebook, I'm scared. My hand tries to fly free, but it's my life, not my death. Make an inventory of your occupations. Remember now, the sugar in your coffee and the band will catch you if you fall. Remember, what were Hart Crane's last words? You read them in the Strand. My dear, I've simply disgraced myself. You know a genius when you see one, don't you? I'm one. Take a good look. You've seen me before. Don't turn back. Isn't it a famous image of the end of love, the famous bride on the ferry, departing from land, the love, the famous prow parting the water now as I jab my hand inside and churn? My bike falls apart, the chain collapses, the brake stuck, the wheel wiggles, taking inventory of my teeth. If they do not look like they will make the long haul, I will leave with them. My poetry's here for the haul, the lonely woman's tool. We have tools now, we have words and lists, we have real tears now, absence, rage, and missing you is not possible in the New York rain because your name is caught between the drops and I might throw up. I can't because it is not beautiful, and I'm a ward of the state. Silly children in hats, waving junkies, so what? Discreet children, bad songs. Where's the art? My drivel in the rain or the la-la, the tape? I have no hope for my culture now. It prefers fictions over journals. It doesn't want my lives, so I choose streets like a billionaire. Prove my coffee counts. I pick up you like my midnight rattle. I shake at the devil of the night that does not scare me. It's true, I've done nothing right, but I'm driven by the rainbows of trash in the puddles, the frames, posters, and windows, the marked sidewalks, stray shoes. Can you imagine selling used magazines, poetry books on a blanket? Click. Dividing my time by the tables, the walks, 27, going, oh, what pain. I need whiskey, sex, And I get it. What the fuck? So now I'm going to go really, well, I don't know, this is back into the future or something. There's a little section at the front of these called New Poems. So this is one of them. It's called Prophesy. I'm playing with the devil's cock. It's like a crayon. It's like a fat, burnt crayon. I'm writing a poem with it. I'm writing that down. All that rattle and heat in this room, I'm using that. I'm using that tingling rattle. That light in the middle of the room, it's my host. I've always been afraid of you, scared you're God and something else. I'm afraid when you're yellow, tawny, white it's okay, transparent, cool. You don't look like home. My belly is homeless, flopping over the waist of my jeans like an omelet. It better be something about feeling fat. What there really is a lack of emptiness. I'm aiming for that empty feeling. I'm going to get some of that, and then I'll be back. And this is really old. It's called Homebody. Stop me drinking water. It's just like, so drink a lot of water and then just stand here and piss as part of my Nobody's ever done that. It's like nothing to show your dick. Just piss right in front of the poetry reading. It's like completely radical. Oh, hello, come on in. You know what, I was just thinking how you've always thought I was cool. And here I am cooking fish cakes and broccoli. I didn't know how I could represent all this for you. This is where I'm really at. Nothing's as fetching as the raw. I heard the dog barking on the third landing and I was fairly sure it would be you. Kind of rainy out tonight. I was so exhausted after work. Made some coffee and sat here reading The Voice. Sort of thought I'd hear from you. I thought, well, he'll either be in the same mood or different. And look, I've got a magenta sock and a rust sock on, just like the futurists. My old work shirt feels good since it's clean for a change. Oh, do you want some? The broccoli's good with grated cheese on it. Yeah, the fish cakes suck, but just douse them with lemon juice. I felt very cool dropping that futurist line. This is called It's so weird because I've been traveling a lot, and so then I'll be on the plane and I'll figure out the reading I'm going to do. And then I try to stay to it no matter how, because I think this is the raw, this is like such a humiliating collection of poems. Why would I read these poems in this room? And then I feel somehow wedded to doing it, no matter how it feels. So we're going to be okay. This is called Romantic Pain. Or RP, for those of you who are really into my work. I'm going to read RP now. And in the first bar, the woman next to me said, "How would you like to be introduced to a couple of muscle-bound?" Then she talked about when she had been chef, moist, juicy salad with Russian dressing. I gulped my bourbon and walked out the door. The second bar was all women. Bartender, a chubby Diane Keaton. Woman to my left, also in the bar business. Woman to my right, passed out. I sipped my gerbil, no. Particular sex bar, who was like. I sipped my bourbon and listened to the jukebox. I'd been asleep all day. I wanted to be tired again. I looked up and the sky was very dark. I must see morning. I must get off my ass, walk, and get tired. Past Canal Street, walked past the plaza or the criminal courts, lit a cigarette near a potted tree on Chambers Street. World Trade Towers, immense, quiet, and barely lit. Past the giant post office, patriotic trucks coming in and out of the garage. Retreat to the womb, a pregnant silence. Round in the corner, Catholic relief place, free lunches for old sailors. I decide to ride the escalator like I never do, up into the ferry building, a last resort. People sacked out on wooden benches, strange ladies' room with door wide open so everyone watches you look at yourself. No one watches. All crashed out on benches. I reassemble a red-stained newspaper, get askance stares like I'm a young bag lady. I look pasty in the bathroom, eyes like raccoons, my hair screwed up, my jacket looks boxy. The sign that says next boat goes green. We hurried on, rumpled, tobacco mouth, the black guy calling the white woman with the little dog weird, a weird bitch. He looks to me, looks at me. I try to tell him, it's okay, I am a weird bitch. The boat smells of donuts, is filled with cops, conductors, strange people coming home from strange nights. I go in the ladies' room and see the woman with the little dog. She plucks the Winston from her pack, an oriental woman, terribly neat. I want to look at myself in the mirror, but I look so shitty, I don't want to expose my third-grade vanity. The other two of us light a cigarette, 3 women at different angles smoking cigarettes. We each sneak peeks at ourselves in the mirror, push this piece of hair, move that collar, inspect that eyelashes. I see us from overhead and call it configuration feminism. And the boat pulls out. I'm brave. I'm Hart Crane. I push the brown door aside and I stand out on the deck. This is what I keep. The meeting. Me on the deck in slight rain at 5 a.m. Looking at you of liberty, swathed and mist. I want to wave. I always want to wave it. It's kind of cold, and I think of various deaths in my family, how I'd go to see various gravestones, trying to exert some sorrow, trying to create the sorrowful setting, as this one is romantic pain. Me alone in the rain on a boat, and it's cold, and I want a cigarette. I huddle under the overhanging upper deck, trying to light one. A cop comes by, and I stealthily turn. The wind picks my pack from my hands, and I chase it, and it scares me. Me running on this deck, and I think how desperate I was looking, and I think the cop thinks now that I'm going to jump. And I sit on the orange boat bench thinking, what a fucked up reason for suicide that would be. Just living up to some cop's anticipation. Ha, I chuckle, my kind of death. And I head downstairs where the scum are allowed to smoke. The windows, this is so great, this is the 70s where all you do is smoke, and poems and books and the world and clouds. Amazingly great. The scum are allowed to smoke, the windows thick with grime, the smell of decades of sour-mouthed smokers, and I smoke. And I watch Staten Island approach. Feeling a fool, I make a U-turn in the hallway and look for the entrance to the New York ferry. I hope the crew is different. I check the name of the boat, but it doesn't matter. I didn't notice the other boat's name. I make my perfunctory tour of the deck. I feel like Hart Crane. The wind smacks my hair, washes it over my cheeks, and I wish I could cry. The boat feels right this time. Downstairs to smoke. I always smoke. And it's crowded this time. Morning people, foggy like night people, but cleaner. Clean shirts, nylons, heels, people drinking coffee as they smoke their cigarettes. The fat man over there, he keeps winking at me. I think, thinking I have no subway money. 50 cents, I'll give you something to wink at. All the way home through Chinatown, through the Bowery, back in the business section, the awakening city. Sitting on the bench across the street from the brand new family court building, I keep looking for it, that wonderful 10, the $20 bill waiting for me lying on the ground. I keep my head down all the way home. My feet hurt, and I miss the dawn, the goddamn dawn, said Hart Crane. This one's called La Vida Nuova. For you Dante fans. I'm being like 27 when I wrote this. I was like, La Vida Nuova, it's a new life, it's new life. And I think I meant that I was a lesbian, but I couldn't tell anybody. La Vida Nuova. It was like a meta poem. Love is an assumption, that is my argument, rudely transposing me as a certain process or in relationship to sanity, or I suppose this is an argument between the body and the soul, whether the chicken hatches the egg. Alone in my soul or through the bodies of others which confuse and disarm in a really provocative manner. Oh, what financial disaster to lie among sheep and propose that all men are sheep, all women. Plato has me hot and drag, and they're all brilliant perceptions. Who amongst me is really getting off? The transposition is rudely transposing me. In my argument, I am amused. I'd really like to tell you of my love, but in describing, I would name, lose my love in attempts to praise. You must know I'm talking to you. The absolutely horrible cotillion of my thoughts. I like to get really stoned and revise everything I've ever done. Leaning against the refrigerator, thinking I would kill to be in bed with you right now. I get up, turn down my hamburger, reestablishing myself into a reading at the Gotham. The man next to me comments, it's amazing how Irish Catholics are so uncomfortable inside of their bodies. Knowingly. Bernadette Devlin crossing the border. I get up again to put cheese on my burger, theorizing of poems based on appetite, the time elapsed, proceeding on the multitudes of varying angles, separate climbs. Am I not inside my life? Is my life the many places I can be alive in and not get nostalgic about? Is man alone in the universe? What about me? I'm replacing a light bulb and thinking about you. I'm a phony. The illusion of love is no substitute for the actual experience of being a carpenter, which I have never ever considered being. This one's called writing. I can connect any two things. That's God. Teeny piece of Band-Aid, little folded piece of Band-Aid. I ran to the bathroom to see my face. Sometimes I don't want to see my face in the mirror. Sometimes I can't bear my thoughts. Sometimes I can't do anything, but that's okay. Band-Aid, book, God. That's right. This one doesn't have a title. My mind's pretty juicy, pretty crayon-y. Full moon. I taught in San Diego for 5 years. I want to make everybody cry. A horrible experience. This is called San Diego Poem. The jacarandas turn on like lights. City Heights is in fact beautiful, guided by voices. Disturbs me, however, I will get to the 15, going north to Adams, to return disc 2 of Brazil. I hated it when it came out. The same thing I always hate, like dirty like Keenholz's, like dirty technology. The Midwest, which is like London, somehow greasy. Who gets British humor? I can't. I think of my dad, who purportedly likes sex so much. In fact, sex in this town. It's true, my dad was stationed in San Diego during the war. Did he ever know his little kid would teach college here, pull over under purple trees to think about him and the urge? I'd do anything to make you happy. I can't tell at all how I've read long or short. What do you feel like? Where are we?
Keep going.
Okay. We're sort of in the semi-present feature of this book. This one's called The Perfect Faceless Fish. I love that. I'm glad you like that. The actual case. So this is my ex. This is about my love for my ex when she was my new love, and we were so new that we had not yet cooked food for each other in our homes. Like, we were kind of having the woman off. Like, I'm not going to cook. I'm not going to cook. You know, so we're just spending more money in restaurants because nobody wants to be female. Finally, it was like I was stuck like in El Paso on a layover, and she was like, "I'll cook. What do you want?" And I was like, "Fish." And she was like, "What kind of fish?" And I was like, "You know, without eyes." She was like, "Okay, I get it. The perfect faceless fish." So, and I wrote this for her. And it's kind of a visionary, religious, allegorical poem. It is a miracle that I should speak to delight you. I feel like a flag, more or less, but music is my breeze. I have many friends, rest assured. You have given me my water, and for this I must thank you. You have been described as elegant in your time, and it is long, the road to go. I am honored to accompany you. A picture is simply what I am, an old crease, a perfect book. You will miss me in your sterile anticipation of something to hang this picture on. I come and go, an edible saint, but if you feast on me, you will be hungry. I know your intelligence carnal somehow, and I began to speak when you began to want me. Please don't interrupt. I cross my legs. I flood the darkened rooms of art for a while, and frankly, that moment is gone. We could only talk through our eyes, and now that is gone. But this is deeper than the marrow. We don't need rods, cones, those Sanskrit piles of things. I am seeing through a stain right now in your love. I am swimming for years. In a sudden absence of trouble and a deftly handled conversation, I, a luminous fish, felt in the spectacle of a possibility a fragrant graze upon the world, an intermittent twitch, whisper. If I had hands, I would touch everyone. I vanish in the green of the background that goes on, made by those who recognize it that way. There's always something better to do. I live in a terminal, and so do you. Listen, we're trying to end everything by this enormous silence, brief. But it was the old thing, so it shall be very loud, very loudish, and the squabbles we have about right and wrong and where the flagpole is, and do we ever have enough space to play the game? I am deeply knowing you, and I feel you have chosen me for this conversation before it's cooked, before anything is prepared, anything at all. The lesser details, never mind the first exquisite choice that brought me into being, this conversation of fishy birth. I've had you in my pocket, it's all that I know, but a knowing that is useless without this acknowledgement in a many-chambered room. You, is that what you said? Enormous, darkly, I accept it. I flow around and fold into everything, your comic, desultory contempt, which I'm beginning to think functions as glue for you. The prettiness for me is the opening city, and moving through it with you, the young old fold around your mouth, seismic, trust that. I am gold in the reconciliation, gold in the anticipation, paradise, great ambiance. What's available is not of any use to what is me today, a stoic, longing symbol of studying peace in outlandish quarters. Your long room in the night, your whole long body, which is faceless too, to acquire your trust is of utmost importance to me. I am foolish, I talking fish. The time is here for me to make promises to you that is sometimes standing in a bakery. Laughing becomes a professional wife with empty folders, and I see the muscle embedded, the one that can't be removed in the beloved text that is offered, a torso-sized drink to me. Each time I break the surface, turn around, bubbles cascading from the incommensurate path of my tail, tentacle, limbs. You make me enough, and so I hold a cup, gasping with laughter, and the t-shirts covered with arcane scribbles carry the message, awkward grins and phones to their ears. You are the wire to everything there is. You are an impossible telephone. I lift my head for the last sip of your you. A lamb leaps over the fence, the arms I would have, we would hold each other in. I am waiting. No difficulty with gold. As I told your mother, I have obtained access to an uncontrolled intimacy. Fear not. Certainly I did not phrase it like that, but I met her mother on Facebook. I met her in the most advanced communication terrain and exchanged messages concerning our difficulties with God. Man, I am beginning to know. I am gold, a transforming ship, the clipped end of an utterance I was saving for you when I saw your swinging light, the door approach, and everything moves close. I'm going to read a couple more, and then, I don't know, maybe we'll talk, right? So this one's called My Box. Like, right? But even weirder, it's sort of like dating somebody so significantly younger than you that they menstruate and you don't. So just like, and then the surreality of a box of Tampax on the ledge on the bathroom window. I was like, look at that. I don't even recognize that design. It has nothing to do with the poem, but I love to tell that every time. In terms of design, one box is colored orange. The one you want, it always is, and it sits in the bathroom of anyone's house because that's what she wants. It's choosing that wakes things up. I wondered how long all that I needed and encountered here would come like a wave, not the shape but the after effects, and this box did say there was a way to see this thing alone. July called it calculus. What is comes in boxes. What is not comes in waves, the dots between. Mountains surround us, and I say they are more marvelous than the sea. Way overhead, I like flying over them too, thinking that is home, these crazy bumps. When we drive into them tomorrow, it won't be bam. It means up, swirling on the edge of a cup, and if you don't watch me like a hawk, I won't be scared. I want to be loved like a sunbeam. That is, it comes across the room or the ocean. You know the way I drive. I want to lift your fear like a bonnet and kiss your living face. Here, this is mine. Don't misunderstand me. I have this whole thing, which is that secretly I write my poems for my family who don't read my poems. So there's like, my dad was a terrible alcoholic, and when he would get drunk, he would be like, don't misunderstand me. So it's like, only the Myleses would think that. Like, what a great last line. It's so horrifying. They don't read it. I think of you guys as the pseudo-Myleses. Sort of medieval sounding. So, 2 more. It's like, eternally, I'm saying 2 more. You'd be like, it's 10 o'clock. 11 o'clock. I know what the last one is, but I have to find them. Actually, this is a great not last poem because it's so wrong. So, it's called Anonymous. Mic check. Mic check. No?
1, 2.
Mic check. Nobody knows. Occupied. Mic check. great. Okay. No, I'm the poet. No, you're the poet. No, he's the poet. No, they're the poet. No, she's the poet. No, that's the poet. No, this is the poet. No, I'm the poet. No, I'm the poet. No, you're the poet. No, he's the poet. No, they're the poet. No, she's the poet. No, that's the poet. No, this is the poet. No, I'm the poet. So, one more. You thought that was the end. It's not the end. At Occupy, that was the thing that was just so great because the mic check thing, right, was the Occupy thing, but there was like a little cadre of poets, and we were writing with this amazing gift, which is that every line you wrote and read would be repeated by this giant crowd of people. So it was like being in like Ben-Hur or some biblical. I'm like a god. So this is called "What Tree Am I Waiting?" That whole part of the world where I won't go anymore. That whole separation that I won't feel high in this house, in this hemisphere, in this artificial light that is artificial, in the earliest morning, dark, in pages and pens, in an unfamiliar bed, in the foot curl, furniture, each rumble when morning comes, and it's still morning, and it's still night. I married a dead girl. We were born in her bloom. I remember that fat bumblebee landed on a lamp. I opened the doors, and I forgot, and the house got colder and colder. Where is this house? The scene between boards merely gains my attention. It's dark and thin. I monitor each situation. My bladder growing full. Climb down, climb up. What tree am I waiting? My whole life in weather, waiting for my raft. I'll fly to another island. I'll take a train. Already I know it will hurt. This is the hurt country. I came here to hold the hurt like a bird, like a tree. Traffic has rings. We watch it whirl around, damaging our night. Great continents hold the feelings and the ages. What is mine? Going blind. Great masses of them not going home. The country drew a line because of memory. One said, I feel my heart race ahead. In eternity, there is this ache. There is this wakefulness. Energetically, that was a really weird one, but thank you. So do we have a little Q&A?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to call people, Eileen?
I will. Unless we call them things. Yeah.
Do you have any favorite numbers?
33.
Wow.
It's a great number, right? I know, it's incredible. It haunts me from time to time. I feel like 33 comes back, rumbling in, and I'm like, oh shit, what's happening? I love it. Whatever it is, it's on. You know? What do you have a favorite number?
I like 10.
Yeah. It's weird. I'm gonna be my next birthday. I'm gonna be 66, which is really weird.
Oh,
Woo!
it's all money.
Maggie.
Hi. I'm just curious. I mean, you do it different ways, but like, how does it feel to be moving through it selective, just reading from it, like,
Oh, very trippy.
Yeah.
You know,
going back, like, how does your own retrospective feeling through it?
Well, it's strange. I mean, the thing is, it's sort of like, in the same way, like I always think of the funny line of the poet James Schuyler, where he says, it's not the writing poems part that's hard, it's the rest of the time. And I think the thing about, which I think is just about being a writer, it's sort of like this writing and then there's your life and the way the two fit together. And the thing is, like when you're reading work, you're often not writing work. It's very much about repeating this pattern that you've already put down. But the thing that's very weird about retrospective like a book that's like 40 years of work is that it's not just when I'm reading the poems, it's all the rest of the day too. It's very strange. Like I feel like I'm just in this wicked flashback mode where all these pieces of my life seem to be bumping into strange people and having this whole. So I feel like there's a spooky part. Like I think poetry is. Well, I mean, all writing, but I think there's something a lot about poetry and divination. You know, like if you in any pattern, like if you return to something regularly, it starts to be a little bit ahead of you, and it becomes a little bit prophetic. And so I feel like I'm in a very weird time with just the practice of reading these works from all these different moments, you know, and I often don't even know what, I mean, it's a spell. Like poetry, poem by poem is a spell, and a collection of poems is an even weirder spell. So I feel like and also I've been having a strange experience of getting a lot of attention. Like, you know, you go through periods where you're having a moment. I'm having a lot of moments, you know, so it's just like, usually when good things happen to me, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, but I don't have that feeling right now, which is even weirder. So I feel like the answer is I'm on some major drug. I'm loving it. It's fucked up, but it's kind of great, you know. Yeah. Love you guys.
Who do you like to read?
Who do I like to read?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it changes all the time, but I'm doing this really interesting thing lately, which is, you know, a lot of my friends are writers, and at various points, you know, somebody will say, I'm working on a book, and it'll be somebody that I think is smart and great, and I'll think, oh, that's great. But I've heard myself at least 4 times say, oh, I'd like to read that, you know, and then they're like, okay, here it is, you know. And so I've taken like 4 of those manuscripts along traveling with me, which is kind of really wonderful to be reading like a book that's sort of like becoming. So right now I'm reading Andrea Lawler, who has this amazing gender change. Like her character has the capacity to change his or her gender in the course of the day, you know, or their life, and it's kind of amazing. So it's a little fantasy sci-fi, but it's a lot of sex. It's really great. And before that, I read a book by a guy named Nate Lippens, who was a journalist in Seattle, and his is also very a lot of sex and a lot of drugs, and just actually an incredibly dark book, beautiful. Before that, I was reading sort of English like I read Middlemarch, which I had never read before, George Eliot, an incredible book. And then I read Oliver Twist because I found it in a laundromat somewhere. So I feel like I'm on a very weird reading path too. So,
so I mean, you were talking about how some of the poems are prophetic, but now they're all collected. Are there any that are speaking backwards, like to earlier?
yeah, I mean, it's like 2 of them that I actually read did that, and I thought, God, is that like really obvious? I've never really read these 2 together, but it's like, they're all. I mean, that was part of the problem and the pleasure of putting the book together is wanting to have those conversations, but not wanting to be plunk. You know, look at this through line I have with German and stuff. You know. So that's. I mean, I think that's totally. Yeah, it's totally part of the thing, and you know. I want to say something more interesting, but there it is. Yeah. Hi.
Nice. I would love to hear a little bit about the process of writing Chelsea Girls in general, and also how it feels to have it reborn a bit.
Well, have it reborn, great relief and great happiness, you know, because it's sort of like when a book goes out of print, it's sort of like, you know it exists and you know people still read it and stuff, but it's sort of hidden, you know, and so it has this sort of suppressed feeling that's kind of weird, and so it's wonderful that it's out, and I feel like it's sort of like my history now feels like intact. It's sort of like, you know, looking for your, your non-adoptive parents or something, you know, but writing it was, it didn't literally take 14 years, but it kind of did, you know, because it's sort of like, I didn't know, for one thing, I didn't know how to write prose, so it's all about a book that is teaching me to write prose, you know, and so the first, and even then it was sort of like at the time that, I was living in New York with my girlfriend in 1979, and the 2 of us, and I was writing poems, and we were always talking about making films. That was our thing, because everybody was like, it was like late 70s, early 80s, and it was this independent film moment in New York, and so we were like, and we were always talking about the films we were going to make, and it was this big conversation. But of course, we were such fucked up drunks. There's no way we were going to make a film. That was just so beyond us, you know. And we even made one little film that was that's in Chelsea Girls. It was kind of a disaster and stuff. But so at whatever point I felt that wasn't going to happen, that's when I decided that I wrote this story called Bread and Water, which is the oldest story in the book. And it was just like I thought you could write and make that be a film. Like if I just acted like the stream of attention and prose and sentences, just like recorded sounds, recorded visuals, recorded thoughts inside and outside, and I made lots of rules with this. Like I thought, well, when you're watching a movie, you don't make paragraphs and you don't say what's a quote and what's not a quote, and you don't like capitalize brand names and shit like that. So it's sort of like I just made it be like just this sort of tumbling, straightforward thing. And so I kind of got a lot of stuff in motion for, by writing that first story, but also convinced myself and demonstrated myself that I could even write a story, because I hadn't written any stories since college. And then it just started to become this ambition of, like I was thinking about Truffaut films, because he did this thing about telling the story of a young male, and I thought, well, where's the story of the young female? And then I was like, why do I have to give her another name when I have a name, Eileen Myles? Why can't I just use that name? And began, and friends of mine were doing the same thing, using their real names. But so then it became a very slow process of, like writing 1 or 2 stories a year, and mostly I felt like I had to travel to write them, because I didn't, it wasn't until I was 40 that I went to like an artist colony, and I thought, oh, this is amazing, like they take care of you and give you a quiet. I thought I had to go to, other countries and, be alone and stuff, and so I went to India and Mexico and wrote chapters. But I also got this idea from travel that writing stories could be like sending postcards to yourself from other moments in your life, like there was a more radical kind of travel, which was memory, I guess. And sometimes, a lot of my work is jokes. Like when I went to India, I was in a city called Madras. And I thought, wouldn't it be funny if I wrote a story about high school fashions? Because when I was in high school, we were just like obsessed with Madras shirts and Madras shorts and all this stuff. And so I just went into this. And also I was going crazy. Often it's just like the only way to relieve my mind of this ceaseless anxiety is to write. And so I was just like freaking out and all alone in a motel in India, writing about high school fashions, and it just was like so restful and kind of like I regained control of my my existence kind of. So it just then it started to be, once I started to have like a pile of stories, then I could start to see holes. Like I just thought, my father's alcoholism. Like I thought, like how do you write about, like the things I wanted to write about, things like sexual assault and alcohol. I mean, I was just, a person who's always trying to come back from all sorts of trauma. I think writing is trauma. Like I think living is trauma, and so it's like, how do you repeat these dreams in some way that's like manageable? So it's just like suddenly when I realized the way to write about alcoholism was to write about the texture of it, to not try and write some, like I felt like this, because I think childhood, and also, last week, so many moments in our lives we're like recording, but we don't know. There's no articulation. It's sort of like often. That's what trauma is. You're going through experiences, but you actually don't know what they mean. And so I think so much of writing for me is to play the movie back and put the voice track in, or the meaning track, because now I can do the interpretive thing. And sometimes it's by, it's information, but other times it's a pace. Like in other books, I have stories that I wrote because it took me so long to figure out at which speed I could unload these details, and sometimes that just takes years, because it's almost like you're still kind of moving all this shit through your body, I think, So it was very, very, it was just like, I just didn't know I could write a book. I didn't know I could write a novel, so it took 10 years, and then after that it was like looking for a publisher and figuring out that part. Hi.
This is probably kind of random, but what's your favorite Hart Crane line?
Yeah.
Like, your favorite line from the Hart Crane poem?
The one, which part, I've simply disgraced myself? Or which one? Or the goddamn John?
What's your favorite
Like,
line?
what's your favorite line of Hart Crane's?
Of Hart Crane's.
Yeah.
Oh, but some are twisted by the love of things irreconcilable, the slant moon with a slanted hill. Oh, beauty school, but you'll never see him again. You won't forget. But the part I love is the favorite. The line is that some are twisted by a love of things irreconcilable. The slant moon with the slanting fell. Do you love Hart Crane?
I love one line.
Which
Like,
one?
The seal's wide spindrift gaze towards twilight, I think it was.
Yell that out, please. The
seal's wide spindrift gaze towards sunrise, I think it is. But I like seal's wide spindrift gaze.
Yeah. He's so rich. He's so mega rich. I mean, you know what I mean?
Well, I feel like I could go like on this track. Like, what's your favorite Frank O'Hara line? But you don't have to.
I know. I don't know. I mean, you're gorgeous and I'm comedy.
Maybe one more question, you guys. Go ahead, Leah.
Hi.
What's the favorite place you've ever visited?
Favorite place I've ever visited? Oh God, it's Istanbul. Oh, I think it's the most beautiful city in the world. It's so amazing. You know, and I wanted to go there because I went to Venice like in the 80s, and I saw the Plaza of San Marcos, and it was those golden lions. And then people said those were stolen from Constantinople, and I was like, that's Istanbul. And then it was just like, I gotta go there. And then it took like 30 years. It was like it shouldn't have been that hard, you know. But it was absolutely so. Like as every place, people are like, oh, I should have been here 10 years ago, you know, because it is being kind of destroyed in a certain way. But it's still like it's just like those the Bosphorus and those ferries, and that it's like Asia over here and Europe over here, and you get on. So you have breakfast in Europe, and you get on the ferry, and then you have dinner in Asia, and it's just like, and you're sleeping in Asia, and you're going to a 12-step meeting in Europe. And it's just like, where should we go tonight? It's just so crazy, you know. And it's just like, and it really is. All of that is there, and the best modern museums and the best old museums, and it's just, and the people are gorgeous. It's just a hot city. I love it. Yeah. It used to be Italy, but now it is Istanbul. Thank you so much.